Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to or watching the Powercast. And on today's episode, we will be recapping Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, Season 2, Episode 2, and the title of the episode is Mind Your Business. And of course, I'm here with Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How are you doing today, Rich?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
What's up, indeed? And I'm also here with Miss Dana Abercrombie. How are you doing, Dana?
Hello, everyone. Excited to be here and talk about another episode that was actually good.
Oh yeah, very good. Lots of consequential things happening today. Uh, and those I see those names. That's pretty funny. The Eye of Scrap, anger management mediator, hilarious. And I'm the shady manager, of course. But yeah, we're going to talk about all of that. This was a very interesting episode, coming off of last week's premiere episode. And, it just gets me more excited about the show and what we're in for this season. So, we're gonna first go through our takeaways. Each of us will give our individual takeaways from the show. But before we do that, just a quick friendly reminder, if you are enjoying this content, please do drop a comment. Let us know your thoughts, whether it's a theory about, raising Canaan or power in general, or feedback for us. Definitely we encourage everyone to have their say, drop your comments, let us know what you think. And also, please do like the video because that is very important to us. It keeps us going. It keeps us, coming back and doing more of these things, possibly even for other shows. So please do engage, with us, hit the like button, leave those comments, and also consider subscribing to the channel. And yeah, we're going to look at more ways in the near future to, make more content like this and also, engage with you, the audience, more too. So, we're looking into some doing some of that stuff very soon. But yeah, just a little bit of housekeeping right there. But now we are going to get right into our takeaways. And in this segment, each of us are going to give just three takeaways from the episode. These takeaways are personal to us, like things that stood out to us that, we kind of want to add our perspective to. So yeah, we're going to do that. And this week I am going with Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. first. So Rich, let us know your takeaways.
Absolutely. So to copy what Dana said, this was another great episode of Raising Kanan. I have three main takeaways that I enjoyed and I think are very important things to watch out for as the show continues. So first and foremost, let's address and give a rest in peace to Scrappy. I guess that he didn't see that death coming. I know that I saw it coming from a mile away when you saw how everything was happening in the episode. And of course, it all started with Warrell. Yeah, see, that's funny. It all started with them, like in the last episode, they alluded to the fact that Raquel wanted to get Raquel in her operation because she's doing everything she can to make sure that Unique doesn't prosper when he gets out of prison. So she did that. And you knew that was going to cause an issue because we know that Warrell has a history with Lulu. This is why Lulu was a little bit of against that deal. But again, Lulu was stepping away from things because he's trying to focus on the music business. So what ends up happening in this episode is that Warrell is given the 40 blocks. This was a big venture that they were going to dive into. And Scrappy, obviously, because he has been loyal to Raquel and everybody else, he thought that would be something that he was going to get. But the problem is that at the beginning of this episode, we had a conversation between Howard and Raquel. And Howard told Raquel, I'm going to get into them also because they are part of my other takeaway. But in the conversation they had, he did tell her that Scrappy basically was a snitch because he saw him at the police officers, at the police office in the last episode. So pretty much he told them that information. And then when she went back and tried to consult with Marvin and Lulu, you notice that Lulu was against the idea of just trying to go after Scrappy. It figures that there's more to the story, whereas Marvin was still pretty much leaning heavily towards, okay, we need to investigate this further, and I'll be the one to make sure that I do exactly that. And that's what Marvin did in this episode. He, he spoke to Scrappy. Scrappy lied about hanging up a picture at his cousin's place. And then Marvin went to the cousin's place, confirmed that he wasn't there when he said he was going to be there. And then at the end of the episode, they decided to take him out. So it's an unfortunate turn of events. I think the main thing that you saw in this is that Raquel is the one that took him out. And that is, it definitely, once again, the character is evolving, because last season, she was telling Lulu to take people out. And you recall that Kanan's friend, Lulu, had to take him out. So she, again, continues to evolve as a complex, the evil character, antagonist, I guess you can say, of the show, or one of the antagonists. But yeah, she's doing everything that she does because she felt as though he turned their back on them. And obviously, because he was talking to the cops, I think it's valid. You could say, yes, it's definitely possible that Scrappy was helping to a certain extent. But the fact that he had to be taken out is very interesting development. So rest in peace to Scrappy. I was surprised the character has survived after last season. And I know on this particular show, we were talking about he was driving around the city, and I asked the question, well, can he really see good still driving around the city? I thought that was a little crazy, but hey, he was an OG. He was always down to help out everybody, even though he got shot and he only had one eye. He was still there. So rest in peace. My next takeaway, again, going back to Howard and Raquel. At the end of the last episode, you were led to believe that Howard doesn't remember anything that happened, or at least he's telling everybody he doesn't remember anything that happens. As soon as this episode starts and he has his conversation with Raquel, he tells her he remembers everything. He tells her that Kanan is a horrible shot. But what's also interesting is he tells her that he doesn't really feel like Kanan is cut out for this and wants to be a part of this. We know that Kanan also has doubts about being a part of the family business. So it's very interesting that he kind of knows his son and with the mindset that, yes, he probably doesn't want to do any of this stuff. So, he did mention to her that he's going to tell Raquel the truth about who he is. And so what I find interesting now, it feels as though it's a back and forth chess game between the both of them, because for the longest time, she doesn't want Kanan to do anything with Howard. She would tell him to stay away from Howard. He may say some stuff, just stay away from him. But the fact that Howard is now making the decision to go out and again try to make things right, because again, he looks at it as he has a second chance at life. So now he has an opportunity to make things right across the board. So that's a very great dynamic to have that back and forth. I mean, obviously, we know what happens with Kanan in the future. So I think we can all agree that this is not going to turn out positive, because none of those characters are in the future Power show. So, but I look forward to seeing how the storyline evolves between those two. And I do expect there to be some back and forth stuff between them once again, especially now that he might have an opportunity to maybe in the future approach Kanan, but we'll have to see what happens. And my third and final takeaway is about Famous, Gary's favorite character on the show. Now, as I said last week, we know that, he said no, that's not, he's not. Okay. As we know last week on the show, they allude to the fact that he gets high now. He hasn't been writing any lyrics, and therefore he's in a situation where he's not able to sell in any of his tapes, none of that stuff. So it's a situation now where he's really concerned about his music career. Obviously, Jessica, who is his sister, who is his manager, she is also got fed up with him because of all the things that are happening. And then you saw in this episode that he got caught sleeping at, he brought a girl home and was sleeping inside his home. His mother caught him. She also alluded to the fact that he was stealing money for drugs. Now, again, all the character does is smoke weed, but obviously he has an issue with smoking weed. But what I thought was important about this episode is that the end of the episode, you saw Jessica did end up taking that job that Crown Camacho got her in LA. So basically, in my opinion, from a writer standpoint, this now sets up the dynamic, whereas she's going to leave to do her thing. And unfortunately, she's going to have to make a return when something bad happens to Famous. I think that Famous is not going to make it out of this season. It was just my opinion, because as we talked about last week at the end of the show, it feels like this character, obviously he's addicted to weed. I don't know if he's ever tried any of the stronger stuff, because I do recall that last season when they had that little party where that Nicole was at, she did try some drugs at that party. And Famous, maybe he tried a little bit of something. But the problem here is that because the character has had a shot at success, you kind of would get the impression that he can once again rise to be successful. But the fact that his sister is not there to watch his back now, that's going to create a lot of issues. And of course, Kanan will do all he can to take care of him. Like you said, they tried to sell some of his mixtapes, and that was unsuccessful. But I think at the end of the day, it's setting up this whole thing where something is going to happen to Famous at some point. He can get caught in the crosshairs, and that's going to lead to Jessica coming back. Because believe me, I don't believe that's the last we've seen of that character. And then considering the tension that continues to build between Lulu and Crown Camacho, this is going to continue. Even though she's not there now, I'm pretty sure you'll see her again in the future. But it just feels like something bad is going to happen to Famous. And like Dana said, Chris Rock in New Jack City, hopefully it doesn't get that bad for Famous, but it's going to get bad. So we'll see what happens. But overall, this was a great episode, a great follow-up episode after the strong premiere, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens from here on out.
Oh, those are some great thoughts right there, particularly the Famous one, because that kind of answers a question that I was going to have later on if we got time. Okay. But yeah, that's a very interesting outlook on that, on what would bring Jessica back. And, if something were to happen to Famous, I guess that would be one thing. But yeah, so great takeaways overall. As always, Richard's got a memory like an elephant. He knows, he remembers every single scene of this episode. So yeah, he's got some great takeaways. But now we're gonna go to Miss Dana Abercrombie and get her takeaways. So let us know your takeaways.
Okay, so it starts off with that big monologue. Mistake is ever getting comfortable. And so this really was to show, when you become too comfortable and in the kind of the position that you're in, even in life, whether or not it's drug or not, things start to slip up. People move without you. You get left behind. One of the big things is Unique. Unique kind of coming out thinking right away, boom, I can make it and be right back on top again, right? And then you kind of realize Raquel is taking control of everything. He got comfortable with his position of thinking that he's on the top and that he can automatically just reinsert himself with no issues. People have moved on. Raquel has taken over, like I stated, multiple territories. And right now, he is untouchable. He had the police, basically label him as a cop killer, even though he was framed. So that whole situation of when he decides to go to Dean with the grandmother, who I'm convinced is fully aware of everything, but she just to pretend she knows nothing and is into her bingo game. When he goes to Dean, he turns him down. And you see him very kind of upset with this, thinking that, because I had this position before, I could have it again, and kind of coming to the understanding that that's not the case. One of the things that he says that stands out is there's no room for competition. Ain't no competition if I don't win. So him willing to try to get back on top. I feel that this could be a calculated move, that we have to pay attention to the words that he's saying. Even though he's not successful at this point, what does that mean for the future? You may kick him down, but I don't think that they have brought Joey back in for him just to disappear like that. It doesn't make any sense, and to me, it doesn't seem true to the character. He doesn't seem like someone who just walks away. That in terms of comfortability, he has to now position himself and maybe start getting help from outside sources. So that was one of the things that stood out. Another one, obviously, is Jukebox. That whole situation that we go back from the previous season of the fight that she had with her father. You can't argue and say that she was comfortable in how things were. She lived with Marvin. They really didn't connect. He doesn't really have that paternal instinct that you would see. She really reaches out more to Raquel, and there's more of an understanding and a conversation that they have. And so now it's the whole situation of her being comfortable, Marvin realizing that she is gay, and that whole situation he's not accepting, and so it rocked her comfortability. And now she's reaching out elsewhere, and this is where we come up to the questions of, well, my mother, where is my mother? In hopes, kind of trying to find some sense of normalcy, but also just wanting to be loved at the same time. So she's being shook out of her comfortability, and now she's looking for something more. The whole situation with Scrap, which I like a happy death in terms of when the person is so darn happy they don't expect it or see it coming. So that whole sequence in the car and walking in the warehouse made me so happy. That is to show that he thinks that he can do side and still comfortable in his position and not think other people are always looking out and looking to see what's going on. He got comfortable there. And so now he is comfortable in the grave. And I just really liked how this whole episode really pulled it together. So those are my 3 takeaways.
Excellent takeaways there as well. I like what you said about Dean's grandma, because I got this funny theory that the grandma is like the real kingpin. Like, she's telling Dean what to do. Like, she's just playing dumb, like she can't hear. She's actually the real kingpin though. Like, but that's just a funny theory. But yeah, excellent takeaways there from Dana Abercrombie. As usual, we always value your perspective on things. So we are going to discuss more of all that stuff in a little bit. But before we get to that, I will get into my personal takeaways. So first of all, Jukebox. Let's talk about Jukebox. So she, in this episode, like she seems very interested in tracking down her mother. And she even brings up the subject to Raquel, where she asks her, what did you know about my mom and stuff? And Raquel kind of, she tells her she was a singer, like kind of like you. Raquel does this thing where she's trying to be like, fake nice, fake concerned, but she's also being manipulative at the same time. So she does that very well, and that's what I love about the character, because it kind of seems like she's trying to keep Jukebox away a little bit from her mother, like she doesn't want her to go looking for her, and I wonder what the reasoning is. But yeah, the response she gave made me feel like she doesn't want Jukebox to pursue her mother, and as I said in the last episode, to me, it feels like Jukebox has a high emotional intelligence, and I feel like she kind of senses that a little bit from both Raquel and maybe even Marvin. Maybe she senses that they kind of don't want her to seek out her mother, and Jukebox seems like she's made up her mind anyway. I think she is going to go looking after her mother, and I'm not sure if because there was the scene where she spoke to Burke in this episode, and I believe Burke gave her some information, like an address or something. So yeah, I think she's actually going to seek her out, maybe even in the next episode or something like that. We might actually see her. So yeah, I think that's very interesting. And like we discussed last week, I'm really wondering how that is going to change the character if she does go looking for her mom, and if she does eventually meet her, like I wonder what kind of changes, what kind of impact that will have on Jukebox that leads her to the path that she eventually goes in. And we also see in this episode that was it Nicole, the girl who died last season, I think. Her mother was very upset in the police station as well, and she's kind of still trying to blame Laverne, for what happened, but Burke seems like she's kind of looking out for her. So that's something else that is probably going to weigh heavy on her consciousness as well. And I think with all these different things going on in Jukebox's mind, she's kind of like trying to figure out her place in the world, and what she represents and all that stuff. So I think she's about to go on a very interesting journey in this season. So yeah, that definitely stood out to me. And I also like that she's kind of like a thing that keeps Kanan grounded as well. Like she keeps him in check a little bit with himself. Like, Jukebox is like his sounding board in the family. So like, if he's going through something, he goes to her, has a conversation. I think she really like helps his mind state as well. And we see that a little bit in the main power, where they're all growing up, because where does Kanan go when Ghost stabs him up and stuff? He goes right to Jukebox. So that dynamic is already at play here in this season. So yeah, Jukebox is a very important character to this show. But my second takeaway is Unique. So it seems like his back is really against the wall right now. He just got out, and clearly the position he had is unattainable to him now, because Raquel owns so much of the business in Jamaica, Queens, so he can't really get a foot back in the game, and he goes to see Dean and everything, and they're treating him like he's just some type of civilian. The security is like roughing him up and not letting him in. And then Dean basically tells him that you have no value, that it's too much of a risk to work with you right now, because the police are probably still looking into you. They like you were accused of shooting a cop, so it would look real funny for him to work with Unique. I guess like it could bring a lot of heat to the situation. So nobody's kind of in Unique's corner at the moment. And of course, Worrell is now with Raquel. That was a very well played card by Raquel to have Worrell to scoop him up and have him be part of her business. He's even operating his own tower and everything. So that was a very strategic move by Raquel. And we see they have a conversation, Unique and Worrell, and instantly, when Worrell reveals that he's not down with Unique's plan or whatever, Unique knows instantly, okay, so you're messing with Raquel, because that must be the only reason you don't want to work with me right now. So he's a very smart guy. It's like he's aware of how dirty Raquel plays. He's aware of her moves. And a character like that is very dangerous. Like, he knows how Raquel works. He knows he was set up to go to jail or whatever. So I want to see, what Unique is going to do. He's a wild card right now. Like, he could cause so many problems for Kanan and the family. Because, when your back is against the wall like that, the only thing you can do is fight your way out. You have to swing, you have to throw a punch. So he's going to do something very drastic, in the next few episodes, probably, so I can't wait to see what kind of move he makes. But he's definitely one to watch. And also Joey Badass, like, I recently kind of got into his music a lot more as well. Like, it's really good. Like, and a lot of his stuff is very 90s sounding as well. So he's like perfect for this role. So yeah, good actor, good character. And my final takeaway is, taking out Scrappy. It was very cold, very cold, and it shows Raquel's ruthlessness in this season. Like she went full heel turn in this show. Like the first season, it seemed like there was a bit of good in her. She was a bit of a face. These are wrestling terms, by the way, but she was a bit of a face in the first season. Now she's full heel turn. She's fully a heel now. And even Marvin and Lulu, who have killed for her in the past, they had to look away, for this one. Like it was that cold blooded, and she was up close with the shot as well, when she took the shot. But I do like how they played this throughout the whole episode, because of course Howard told Raquel that he saw Scrappy in the precinct, and that he might be giving up information. I like that they actually gave him a chance by having Marvin kind of feel him out and see what he's up to. And of course, Marvin caught him in a lie, because he said that he went to his sister's house to do some housework, and Marvin actually went there, and whenever Marvin's in the scene, it's always comical in some way. Like he has a lot of energy. I really like the character. But he made something as simple as going to check at his sister's place. He made that an interesting scene. So shouts to that actor also. But yeah, I like that they actually they didn't kill him. They didn't make the decision to kill him right away. They actually did try to see if it really was what it was. And you could argue that they still really don't know the truth. He might not have gave them up. It could have just been an interrogation, but he might not have said anything. But he did lie about what he was doing at his sister's place, so that makes him suspect. But yeah, it's sad to see the character go, just because all the memories. I really like some of the gambling stuff they did with the character, showing that he has a weak side to him. He has his vices and everything. And then, there's all these memories from the first season where him and Kanan were kind of beefing. They had a fight even. The character, he came a long way. And his death is kind of a statement as to the game Raquel is playing. Like she's playing at a higher level now, because, even just her making the decision to give Worrell the tower over Scrappy, that was a chess move right there, and you could argue Scrappy deserved it. He worked his way up for it, but she was playing the game. She was playing like a real harsh game, and his death is a statement to that. There's like zero tolerance for Raquel and the family at this moment. So yeah, it's cool that we see a death of that magnitude this early into the season. It makes me wonder who else is going to be expendable in this season. And yeah, that's my final takeaway. So yeah, an interesting round of takeaways right there. We are going to get to our questions and discussions segment, so we can have more of a conversation now about these things. But before we get there, another friendly reminder: if you have something else to add to the conversation, please do leave your comments. Let us know what you think of any of the the things we've just discussed in our takeaways, or any feedback you have about the show. Please do drop your feedback. You can also follow us on Instagram at Powercast Show. And you can send us questions and stuff like that. We might read them. We might actually make a discussion of it on the show and credit you, of course. So yeah, please do get engaged, hit the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, with that out the way, let's get right into our questions and discussions. So I have a few good questions here. So let me see, where should we go first? Okay, so this is a great one based on what happened. So this episode kind of started with that conversation, with that exchange between, Raquel and Howard. Howard was basically saying, he wants to be in Kanan's life. He wants Kanan to know that he's his father and everything. Raquel obviously doesn't want that. She later went on to kind of manipulate Kanan a little bit by telling him that, Howard's gone crazy. He might approach you and say some wild stuff. So be on your guard, basically, And yeah, like, so the question I have is, this manipulation from Raquel, because she's clearly not being honest with Kanan. She's not telling him that Howard is claiming to be his father. She's just telling him that he's gone crazy and not to believe anything he says because he's a bit loopy right now. But my question is, do you think that this manipulation is going to backfire on her in some way? So maybe Kanan will find out she's lying and trying to control him or manipulate him. Like, is this going to backfire in some way? And, if you have any idea on how that might happen, please do say. So I'm going to go to you first, Rich. What do you think about that?
Yes, sorry about that. Yes, so to answer your question, I do believe it is going to backfire because it kind of feels like that has to happen. I know you alluded to the fact that she was started to be a lot more manipulative with Kanan so far this season in the first 2 episodes, but even last season, we recall that Kanan's friend got killed and Lulu had to take the shot and take him out. And then they went to go to visit his mom to just, I guess, trying to console her. And the way she was talking with Kanan, because Kanan obviously took the news hard, but you knew, again, all this stuff was a manipulation, even down to how the season ended last season, how she got him to try to take out Howard. Obviously, it didn't go the way that she anticipated, but she still is having him do all this other stuff. And it all started with this thing where Kanan said that he wanted to get into this to protect his mom. He saw that she was in trouble. I want to step up, make sure that you're protected. But as she said in the last episode, that like Dana also mentioned, is that she tries to make him feel bad, like he needs to do this now because of all the sacrifices that have been made. But then also the simple fact that she's saying, yeah, I'm also protecting you. That it's my job as a parent to protect you. So really just trying to play these mind games with Kanan back and forth. I feel like sooner or later, the character is definitely going to come around and see what she's doing. But I kind of feel like it may take losing a lot of things before that happens. Because again, we all know how Kanan turns out on the original Power show. And as I said last week, there are a lot of bad things that have to happen to this character to fully turn him over. Because right now, the character is in a place where he doesn't really know if he really wants to be a part of the game. But obviously, that's going to change. So it makes sense for us to see how that happens. And yeah, it's going to definitely be a part of him eventually coming to a realization about his mom. But I don't know exactly when that's going to happen. But it is going to happen. No doubt about it, sooner or later. That's my thought.
Okay. And what about you, Dana? What's your thoughts on this? So the question is, will Raquel's manipulation on Kanan backfire on her eventually?
Eventually. Right now, Kanan's, I don't want to say he's slow to understand and piece everything together. You don't want to believe that your mother is like an actual manipulative sociopath. And so it's going to take some time for him to fully realize, but to kind of piggyback on what Richard said previously, was during that conversation that they had when they went to go visit the mother, he realized that his own mother was lying. And it was slowly starting to click. And we've seen threads of manipulation and Kanan slowly kind of catch on. Raquel, she knows kind of what she can say in order to get Kanan on her side. Really, he's evolving and he's starting to become more aware of certain things. So he's going to figure this out. And that's when we're going to have the big two clashes between Kanan and Raquel. I look forward to that. But right now, at this moment, it's just a really slow progress. I just also want to say that I don't like how Howard is going about this situation, but also I understand why he's going about this situation. To me, it seems like he's very aggressive. And people don't take that aggressiveness very well, constantly being there, constantly want to talk to you. But I understand that Howard has to take this approach because Raquel has such a way with manipulating certain situations and knowing what words to say that he may never be able to reach Kanan. So that's why he has to be aggressive. But at the same time, it's still a turnoff. I do feel that Kanan will be in a pickle because just right now, everything in his life is just thrown up in the air. That sense of comfortability that he had, remember before, going about won't be the remain comfortable. That sense of comfortability that he had in like season 1 when we first met him. Remember when he wanted to really, he was eager to be a part of his mother's lifestyle. He was comfortable with learning certain things, and now the more he's learning, the more he doesn't like it, and the more he has to do, the more he doesn't like it. So I feel that this is really going to come to it's going to be a big moment for Kanan. I'm waiting for that turning point. But right now, what I love with the writing is that it can go either way. We don't know. And because Kanan was so much older than when we got into the Power series, anything can happen right now. But they're building little seeds for that roadmap. But there's still a lot more ground to cover.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there are many ways we could go about it. And it does seem like they're kind of setting up, some kind of big explosion or rift in their relationship, Kanan and Raquel. And maybe this is going to be like end game stuff for this show, Raising Kanan, where it's like those two at odds. And I mean, it definitely makes for a compelling statement if the character Kanan killed his mother and his son. Like, imagine that, because we know in the real Power, he in the original Power, he killed his son. So imagine if he's the one to kind of take out Raquel or something, and it seems like they're building up to a lot of like tension between these two. And I wonder how far it will go, because it could just be that Kanan is mad at her and then he decides to move out, like a Jukebox did. He might go live with someone else, or it could fully escalate as he continues to get older and stuff. It could escalate and build up to the point where he feels like, okay, I need to end this. Like, otherwise she's always going to have some kind of hold on me for as long as she's living, and I just won't be able to get free from her unless I end this. Maybe it will build up to that point. But yeah, it's a very interesting thing in terms of Howard specifically. I do think that if Kanan ever learns the truth, I think he's going to be curious about, Howard suddenly, being the person who is his actual father, because all he's known is like Deathcon or whatever his name is. Like, as far as he knows, that was his father. So if he learns that Howard is now his father and he's living, and that he unintentionally, well, because of Raquel's manipulation, he shot him and almost killed him, I think that is going to make him more drawn to learning more about Howard and spending time with him. So in this season, I definitely see that happening, and I want to know how Raquel is going to respond to that. If Kanan and Howard suddenly build a bond together or something like that, does that automatically mean that Kanan basically has to move out or something? Like, is she going to be able to live with that? You know, and I mean, are they even going to be able to have a cordial relationship? Like, is it going to be to where, Raquel is okay with them, seeing each other? I mean, I'm sure it would cause a lot of complications with him being a police officer and her being a drug kingpin. So there's that element to it too. So yeah, it's going to get real interesting, I think, this season with this particular storyline, especially as Kanan, learns more of the truth, because the more lies he uncovers, I think the less he'll trust his mother, and eventually he might turn on her, or he's going to feel very unhappy with the things that she's tried to instill in him. So yeah, I can't wait to see what they have in store for this entire storyline. Did either of you have anything else to add before we get to the next one?
I just want to say that they can't kill Howard at this point, because it would completely drive Kanan away, just in general. So he has to stay around. And so the real thing that I want to see is, how do Raquel and Howard basically survive without trying to kill each other? That's a really good dynamic, because I do see, in order to change things up, maybe he ends up talking to Howard. Maybe Howard is successful to reaching through to Kanan. I'm waiting to see what that reaction is with Raquel. I don't know that if he would throw him out completely, that she would throw him out. I just feel that it's going to be a big shakeup in her plans. And again, going off with don't get too comfortable, if we're going with certain themes of the show, and maybe it's foresighting or foreshadowing what's to come, that would be the best way.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, those very, very good points by both, by Dana and as well as you, Gary. I was just going to add something else that Dana brought up on the last show, is that the other element that makes this a very interesting story is, while all this is happening, you still have Burke looking deeper into her partner, very suspicious of Howard and his activity, and I'm pretty sure that's going to continue to evolve as the season goes on. Because even last season, she was trying to figure out, Howard is hiding something. What is it? She hasn't really solved that. She hasn't really come to a conclusion on any of that stuff yet. So while that story happening in the background, that might be that's going to end up being a major threat to, I feel, Howard and his relationship with Kanan in the future. Because if she does find out that they are related, in that Raquel, he was involved with Raquel, she's going to be led to believe, okay, so maybe Howard is not a good cop. He might be dirty, and that causes some issues. Because as you said, Gary, I don't think everybody would want to know that Howard and Raquel had a relationship in the past, given that they are both on the opposite ends of the law. So I'm very curious to see what happens, but her basically trying to get involved in this as well, I kind of feel like that's not going to end well for her. But we'll see what happens, because at that moment, I think Howard would have to make a decision. If he thought Burke was going to try and, I don't know, arrest Kanan or take him away, that's going to he's going to have to make a decision, because that's his partner. So those complexities makes it a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah, definitely. And let's say Raquel or Marvin or Lulu or somebody gets locked up, she could use that as leverage against Howard. So like, let's say, Burke is responsible for locking up one of those, Marvin, Lulu or someone. She could put pressure on Howard using Kanan, by basically saying like, you're not going to see him unless you fix this, unless you get, you get Marvin out or something, So it's a very dangerous game that they're going to be playing. And Kanan is going to get caught in the middle. So unfortunately,
Yep.
And just to kind of piggyback off of that really quickly, don't forget the partner is also close-ish with Jukebox. And so I wonder what this is going to mean for their relationship. Is she going to continue to try to question her in order to get certain information? So there's a lot of different avenues that she can take this, but I don't think it's going to be very good or very wise for her character in the end.
Yeah, there will be consequences, that's for sure. But yeah, great thoughts. Definitely want to hear more thoughts from the people also. But so let's talk a bit about Scrappy. So we we kind of brought this up already. In our takeaways and everything. Scrappy is no longer with us, sadly. They say in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. So Scrappy he is a king now. So. There's that, but so I guess the question is, was this death warranted? Do you think? Like, was this death needed? Should it have happened? Is it a good thing to happen at this point in the story? Just let me know your thoughts on that. Did Scrappy deserve to be taken out in this episode? So go ahead, Dana. Let us know your thoughts.
Well, I personally wouldn't have. I personally wouldn't have just outright killed him.
Okay.
I'm breathing. I personally wouldn't outright have killed him until I got more assurance and everything. If you really looked at it, the whole episode was like a sad, do we have to? Can we keep finding out more information situation? But I understand why they did it. I just kind of feel that, again, everything that was going on with Scrap. Remember how he wanted more, and he thought how he was going to get promoted. And I think that by taking certain shortcuts or side cuts, sorry, I don't know what's going on here. That's how he would, rise to the top that way. But he was his own downfall at the end by lying. And again, we were really not even sure if he was lying, which is another device that I really like because we're just as unsure as the characters were unsure. So I like how they did that.
Yeah, definitely. Because like I was saying earlier, like we still don't know for sure if he was gonna talk because it could have just been an interrogation. Like we didn't hear what he was saying to the police. So there's a chance he could have not been snitching, but obviously he did lie about where he was when Marvin asked him. So there is that. But Rich, what do you think? Did Scrappy deserve to go?
Well, first, let me just say that as was already mentioned by the both of you, he had a gambling problem. I guess he decided to take a gamble on his life, and that was not a wise decision. So, in my opinion, though, to answer the question, I do think the death was warranted and needed because you need to show that Raquel has evolved as a character. The whole thing about her being the one to pull the trigger and take him out shows you that she's no longer ordering Marvin and Lulu to do all the dirty work. She'll still have them try to get involved to find out some information. But the fact that she's willing to do it herself, pull the trigger, whatever, that shows you the character has evolved. It is crossing over into another type of territory. And obviously she is in a higher position of power now this season. So you expect these type of moves to be things that a boss makes. So I think that was needed just to show you. But as you alluded to, Gary, the bond that Scrappy had with some of the other characters, some of the bonds that he's had with other people, such as Kanan, I'm very curious to know how they might react to this, because eventually everybody's going to find out that he got killed. There's going to be questions about what happened, and that looking in the situation, they currently don't have they currently don't have anybody that's gunning for them. Yes, Unique is out. You could make a question that maybe Unique went after him, but Unique is still trying to establish himself once again in his business enterprise. So I don't think anyone's going to fully believe that. But the fact that there wasn't anybody that was gunning after them in particular, it's very suspicious. So I'm very curious to see how everyone else is going to react to this news. But yeah, it's I thought the death was warranted because again, it serves a higher purpose in showing you how Raquel is changing as a character and what she is willing to do, how far she was willing to go to protect her business. So it made sense. But I'm very curious to see what the fallout will be now, because there's definitely going to be some type of fallout after this.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wonder what the reactions are going to be from all the people, because obviously Kanan did kind of build a bond with Scrappy now. Yeah, I mean, even like the people who work for Raquel, even down to Worrell, Worrell, I should say, they might look at this and be like, if I make a mistake, is she going to get rid of me, or something? Like they might feel a certain way about that, like, because Scrappy was knee deep in the business with them. Like he was like a high ranking person in the operation, so yeah, like I think there's going to be a lot of like reactions, a lot of different people looking at this and kind of feeling a certain way. So definitely I'm looking forward to seeing that in the next episode, what the reactions will be. And I mean, even Lulu and Marvin seemed like, they felt a certain way about it. Like, it was hard for them to look at it. It was hard for them to watch. So yeah. But I do agree that this death needed to happen just because it builds character. It shows how serious she is now. She doesn't need Marvin and Lulu to do the murders for her. She'll do it herself if need be. So it's kind of like a character defining moment. Like, she's really on top of her game right now. Like she's not letting anything get in the way. But yeah, Dana, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, remember one of the reasons why she wanted him dead was the fact that Scrap knew everything. She said that he could take us all down. So with that being said, I wonder if she's going to start moving differently in terms of who she tells the information to. Will she start breaking up information and tell different people different things, in order to, again, going back with that comfortability to not being so comfortable anymore? Because that was the whole main consensus as to why she wanted Scrap dead. He knew too much.
Yeah, that's a good point, because now it's like the people who know the most are family, blood. So she can't just kill her blood, she can't just kill her family like that. I mean, she could, but I don't think it's going to be the same, so yeah, like that's a great point. Scrappy was like the one person who wasn't family, who basically knew everything. So now he's gone, she can kind of restructure and make it so everybody is on a need to know basis. So yeah, it made sense. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that, in a way she is killing family, spirit wise. So we'll see what happens physically, but spiritually she's killing everyone.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, Scrappy was he was sort of like family. I mean, the dude did give an eyeball for the team. He lost his eye for them. So, I mean, if you lose a body part like that, like an important function of your body, I think it's safe to say, you're kind of almost family at that point. But yeah, definitely a definitive moment in the season, and it's only episode 2, so I can't wait to see what else is in store. But yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments, the people listening. Was Scrappy's death, warranted? Let us know what you think. So let's get to Unique. So, as we all kind of said earlier, his back is against the wall. He's kind of locked out of the drug trade at the moment because he just got out of prison. He doesn't have many options. Worrell just switched sides on him. So yeah, his back is against the wall, and the question is basically, what do you think his next move is going to be? You know, because Dean doesn't want anything to do with him, so he doesn't have a source to get any product, any drugs or anything to sell. So, what do you think his next move might be? So I'll go to you first, Rich. What do you think?
Well, if I was Unique, I would try to look into seeing what I can do to try to hurt Raquel. I don't really know what his angle is going to be. Obviously, he wants to try to do what he can to try to stop her from getting money. So it's kind of hard to really determine. I know in this episode we did see that where Raquel was storing the money, there were rats that were starting to eat money at the bodega. So there might be a bit of an issue there. But I just think as far as Unique's character is concerned, like you said earlier in this podcast, Gary, his mindset is, because he is so determined and he has to win, that makes him a very dangerous character. So I kind of feel like he's going to do everything in his power to really try and go after Raquel. But the other thing I do want to point out is that when he had the conversation with Worrell, and Worrell alluded to him and said that, no, I'm working on something else right now. You know, there was a bit of a mention in that when they had that conversation saying that, yeah, you would have to go somewhere else and do something. Here's the thing. Even though Worrell is working for Raquel right now in the family, I don't know if I can trust that he's 100% loyal to them. After seeing, my guess is that once he finds out about Scrappy, once everybody finds out about Scrappy, they're going to probably take a different look at how Raquel is running the organization, and they may want to look out for their own interests. But if I was Raquel as a character, I would not 100% trust Worrell. Can you take him out at any time? Absolutely, you can. But I would be very careful because, again, that was Unique's right-hand man. So even though he can't work with Unique and get him involved in this, you don't think he can't try to do some type of side operation and get him involved in that? I kind of think she needs to consider that, because to me, it just makes the most logical sense. They have a bond that's a lot stronger. So I kind of feel like they're going to try to find a way to work together in some capacity. But if I was Unique, I probably may try to approach him. Maybe that will happen, or I will try and figure out something where I can get him involved. I have no idea. One thing I do want to say, though, before you get ready to go to Dana, I would love to see a much more angrier version of D'Angelo Barksdale to make a return and go after Unique. Because as Dana mentioned earlier, I do feel that, yes, the grandmother is probably running the operation. But if you're a Wire fan and you know that actor that plays Dean, you want to see him also get dirty. And of course, he has these henchmen that are doing his work for him, like, you know, trying to rough up Unique when he came to try to talk to him. That's fine. But I kind of feel like that character is also a character that's in a position of power. I would love to see that hopefully eventually he has an encounter with Unique. Because the thing is, Unique is now trying to prove himself. And I kind of feel like once he does get in a position where he proves himself, he could very well go after Dean. Maybe he tries to go after and take him out. You don't know. But what I'm saying is, as you said, Gary, that character is very dangerous now because he has nothing to lose. So it makes me very curious as a viewer to see which direction they're going to take that storyline from here on out.
Oh yeah, you actually make an excellent point, because a good power play for Unique would be to reach to a higher level than he was before. You know, when he was a free man, so he could completely sidestep what Raquel is doing and just, you know, maybe take out Dean and, you know, fill Dean's position, become like a new plug, you know, a new supplier or something. So that could be an interesting turn of events if he goes in that direction. but I guess he kind of has to build up a team. He has to kind of develop more of a team to be able to accomplish something like that. So yeah, it'll probably take some work before he's ready to make a move like that. But that's an interesting thought though. And yeah, I do want to see more range from that character Dean as well, like you said, because we saw a lot more range from the actor in The Wire. We saw him do many different things. So yeah, I would love to see him kind of do more things in this show in particular. But yeah, Dana, what's your thoughts on Unique? Like, what do you think his next moves might be? Will he do something to hurt Kanan or Raquel, or what's he got up his sleeve? Do you think?
I think if he was to do anything to hurt Kanan, that would be an all-out war that he would be on the losing end on. See, remember, right now he has absolutely no connect that anybody does. People don't want to touch him at the moment, and also, I feel that for him to go directly at Raquel wouldn't be a very smart move, especially with no one on his side. I feel that right now it's best he lays low and starts working from the inner. I know that you mentioned the part with Dean, and I do feel that Dean is going to be a major roadblock, but I don't think that he can tackle him right now. I feel it's going to be more of trying to just lay low and figuring out what everyone is doing. We do know that Raquel is making some moves, and that in this episode, remember she went to go to a realtor to look at a house. And so I feel that maybe that is a house for the family to have a nice new personal home, or maybe this is more property for her to expand her business in. But I feel that this is that she right now for Unique, he has to just watch everyone and see what moves are being made, and then he can kind of react. Or maybe New York right now is not best for him. Maybe he can build up something in another state. But I don't feel that he's going to go away, especially after his huge conversation that he had with Dean, and that how he was so eager to go back and be like, "Hey, I'm back, baby," and Dean was like, "No, you're not." But he didn't like just walk away and say, "Okay, bye." He kind of there was fight still left in him, and I feel that that's going to be the best approach. He can't come directly; he's going to have to do it indirectly, and we'll start making silent moves.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. He has to be real careful with how he approaches things. He has to kind of like lay low a little bit, I think. But yeah, there's a lot of directions they can go. And there was like this moment. I don't know if it's gonna lead anywhere, but there was a moment in the bodega where Raquel, keeps the money and everything. And like when she was walking out, she had like a stare down with that woman. I think it's Unique Skull. Because
Yeah,
there was
yeah, it
another.
was.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
So yeah, maybe that's gonna lead some, like, maybe, I don't know, because if his girl saw Raquel at the bodega, and maybe there's some way he can use that. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, any more thoughts on Unique before we move on?
Oh no, I'm just looking forward to seeing where the character goes from here.
Yeah, definitely. Great actor too. Again, Joey Badass. He's doing his thing on this show. So props to him. Um, so let me see what else. Okay, so Richard said something interesting earlier about Jessica. During his takeaways, where he was talking about, she might come back if something happens to Famous, and that's a good point. And I actually had a question relating to exactly that of, will we see this character again? Is she going to return? Because it was very abrupt how she just decided to leave because Crown got her this opportunity. and she kind of left things on a bad vibe with Lulu. Of course, we saw, she's actually been sleeping with Crown as well behind his back. I don't know how Lulu would feel about that, if he knew. Um, but yeah, so like, do you see that character coming back, or is she just gone? And do you feel maybe what Rich said, maybe that might be the case, of something happens to Famous, or he passes away and then she returns. Like, what do you think, Dana? Do you think we'll see Jessica again? Oh,
Sorry about that. I do feel that, yes, one of the things that she said before she was leaving was, I got to look out for myself because no one else is going to do it. And hopefully she doesn't end up as those sad tales that we hear about with singers who end up going to LA and they end up strung out and used and everything else. Hopefully that's not the case. I want her to be very successful, and that when she does come back, she comes back to probably help others. Remember, Lulu is still in the whole music thing. Maybe she becomes successful enough where she's able to help him to rise, as a producer. So that's one of the things that I'm looking forward for. I don't want something to be so much sadness. I do want her to make it, and I do want her to come back. Also, remember, she has a brother, who right now is desperately struggling, and how I hope does not turn into Pookie. And so I just need her to make sure she takes care of herself, and then maybe come back and see if she can help others.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see the character again, so hopefully this isn't the end for the character and she does make a return. But Rich, I know you kind of spoke about this earlier, but do you have any more thoughts on that, on Jessica, and if she'll actually return, maybe even in this season?
Yeah, so let me say that I like what Dana said about her returning, to be in a much higher position of power than Lulu. Although I do think if that happens, she's going to want to try to do better than Lulu and Crown Camacho. I don't think she's going to want to help them in any capacity. Now, but I do believe the character is going to return twofold. Number one, because I do feel as though the path that Famous is going down, it's not going to end well for him. And that'll be a reason to get her back. But also, there is the mounting tension that's going on between Lulu and Camacho. And you've seen that last season when he got involved, and when Lulu was basically paying for all of the stuff that they were doing there. And then you see it going into this season. And like you said, Gary, I don't know if he knows that she's been sleeping around with Crown Camacho. I would assume he does, because he knows that he played a role in getting her that position. But what the way that this ends is, it's not going to end positively, because both of those characters are on a collision course. Something is definitely going to happen between Crown Camacho and Lulu. Lulu can definitely take him out as well if it has to come to that point. But something is going to happen. It's not going to happen yet, but it feels like it's headed in that direction. But as for Famous, yeah, unfortunately, something will happen to Famous. When something happens to Famous, it's going to impact Kanan, and it's going to impact Jukebox, but definitely Kanan, because you saw in this episode, Kanan was doing what he could to try to help his boy out with selling the mixtapes. So I kind of feel like that's the natural direction for things to go. But when something happens to Famous, you'll definitely see Jessica return, because she'll want answers about what happened to her brother. And then, of course, with her coming back, that's going to rile up tension again that's already going on between Lulu and Crown Camacho. So, yeah, I look forward to seeing how they handle that. But I definitely don't think that's the last we've seen of that particular character on the show.
Yeah, great points. Because there definitely is some tension between Crown and Lulu. You sense it even when they introduce the new character, Cardia, or whatever his name is, the manager.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of proposed some kind of singles deal for Zisa, the singer, or whatever. And you know, it seemed like Lulu was receptive to the offer, but Crown wasn't, you know, so they're definitely building up tension between those two. And Jessica will, you know, she's definitely going to be like she might be a big part of that, you know, because there had to be a reason why we saw her sleeping with Crown, you know, in the last episode. So yeah, I think she'll definitely stir some stuff up. Go ahead, Rich.
I agree. Do you also think it's possible that Lulu might get linked romantically with Ziza? Or is he going to try to just keep this a business relationship?
That's a great question, because yeah, in the first episode it looked like that might happen, like just the way that he kind of, you know, got her interested in being a singer, like when he tried to go out of his way to get her attention in the car and stuff. Like it seemed like there was, you know, he was kind of attracted to her, but I think he's thinking very business minded, so maybe he's trying to keep it separate, like trying to keep his desires separate, you know, from the business. But it could always happen, you know. There could be a late session that they do together, recording a song, and then they get close. You know, it can happen at any moment. So yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility, and maybe when Jessica returns, she even sees them together or something. So yeah.
Well, one last point I will mention, and then if Dana wants to add anything else, I will say, as far as the new character that was introduced, that character feels as though he's going to be very protective of her. So that's why I say there could be some tension coming. So if Lulu ever did try to take something, you know, have some type of romantic encounter with her, that could impact business. That'll definitely impact that guy wanting to work with those two. So I kind of feel like there's a lot of tension coming as far as the music stuff is concerned in the future.
Yeah, definitely. You know what? Oh, go ahead, Dana.
Oh no, I just really wanted to say that I really like the Cartier character, and also, would Raquel even allow Lulu to have any kind of relationship? I mean, let's be honest right now.
Yeah, she does seem very controlling. She seems more controlling of Lulu than Marvin sometimes, like, which is interesting. But yeah, she's very like she doesn't like this whole music business at all, it seems like. Mm-hmm. So it would be interesting to see if she maybe does something to sabotage the business later on. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I also think, you know, Jessica, she might be the cause of the East Coast West Coast rap music war, because, like, you know, she's out there in LA. She's gonna meet Dr. Dre and Suge Knight. You know, maybe she causes the beef. Maybe Lulu finds out. So, but yeah, great thoughts overall on that. Definitely leave your comments on that discussion. We're running a bit over, so that is it for the questions for now, but I will let you know, both of you, give any final thoughts on the episode that you have. So before we end off, Rich, do you have any final thoughts at all about this episode?
So yeah, final thoughts. I thought this was another great episode of Raising Kanan. Rest in peace to Scrappy. And I look forward to seeing where the storyline goes from here.
Indeed. And Dana, any final thoughts?
One of the things that really stuck out to me is at the very end, when 50 Cent is narrating and he says, "Sometimes there's nothing to say, no lesson to learn." That really stuck out for me. And then also, I'm really looking forward to seeing what lies ahead for Jukebox, because she has been looking for her mama.
Yeah, that was I do like some of 50 Cent's comments, like, in this season. Like, that was a really cool way to end off, like, the show, when he said that, like, sometimes there's nothing to say. Like, that was a cool way to end off. But yeah, I don't really have a final thought, but I'm just really loving it so far. Like we're 2 episodes in. This is already better than some other shows I watched this year. So yeah, big shouts to Stars and the whole team behind this show in particular. It's great. I love it. So that's my final thought. But let's get a quick round of shout outs also before we wrap things up. Rich, do you have any shout outs?
Yeah, I want to definitely give a shout out to you both. As I say, always great having these discussions with the both of you. I do want to give a shout out to Stars for, allowing us to cover the show. And I also want to give a shout out, especially to all of the people that listen and support the show. If they watch on YouTube or listen on Spotify or any of the other streaming platforms, we very much appreciate your continued support. Feel free to leave your thoughts on this episode and answer some of the questions that we discussed, because I'm very curious to hear what a lot of you think about what's happening on this particular show right now. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for the continued support. We look forward to coming back next week for the next episode.
Indeed. Dana, any shout outs?
Yeah, kind of just also to reiterate, thank you so much to Stars. Thank you to Leslie, who is a part of Stars, for just being so wonderful. And we have a bunch of interviews that we were able to do. We were able to be a part of press conferences. So shout out to that. Shout out to Sasha Penn, who is the showrunner. And thank you for creating such a wonderful show. On top of that, also, we will have a lot more information, a lot more interviews coming with the cast of Raising Kanan, and we'll have more material going forward with basically the show. Thank you to everyone who listens and supports us, and we will, of course, we like doing this, so we will continue to do this. And we have other things also on the website that you can check. We have a huge She-Hulk interview that we've done. We have Andor's coming up. We have the Andor screenings that are coming up. So a lot of Marvel content as well. If you like that, we have a whole other array of stuff that will be coming within the weeks. So this, once again, thank you to everyone.
Indeed. I know Dana's working hard on those interviews. So, shouts to that. Can't wait to see them. So, yeah. And yeah, I pretty much gave my shouts already. Big shouts to Stars, the entire team behind Raising Kanan, the actors and everything. I heard a few people watch the show, so that's an honor, to hear that. But yeah, we will be back next week to recap episode 3 of Raising Kanan season 2. So please do tune in, join us then. For now, have a great week, and I'm looking forward to the comments. So peace out, everyone.